I'm Jess.
And I'm Karli. And this is the Only Human podcast.
I could just feel that I was so out of alignment with myself and my values. I felt so empty. I started to feel like a shell of myself. That was so debilitating for me, that fear of putting myself out there and just the fear of letting people in. We have our emotional support water bottles. Yeah, we do. Now we got the giggles.
One of my favorite things about our duo and the Only Human Project is I feel like we represent two unique sets of women. You obviously are 26, you're married, you're a homeowner, and you're blonde.
And a blonde.
You're blonde. Me, in contrast, I'm 28, I'm single, and I live at home right now, and I'm brunette. So we're similar in a ton of ways,
more different.
But yeah, we are so different in some respects. And I remember when we first met and we started connecting about how we're feeling deep down and just feeling like we were just still trying to figure things out. And there was the same underlying emotions, but we kind of looked at each other and we were like, we're living such different lives. You're checking all of those boxes of
those traditional
boxes of finding your person, settling down, being a homeowner. And then you're looking at somebody like me who is still single and dating and traveling around and just kind of no ball on chain and questioning, is the grass greener? Are you wasting any years of your life? But then I look at you and I want nothing more than to have your life. And it's just so funny how we are always comparing our own timelines and milestones to not only just our friends, but just, random people that we come across on social media. And it really dictates how we feel about our own progress and where we're at in our life, both things that we can control and other things we can't control, when you find the person that you want to spend the rest of your life with. So I'm excited to talk about that topic today. I think this episode can really help a lot of people.
Yeah, I was just going to say one of the reasons that I started my podcast Figuring It Out was because I was feeling that way. And I was just if I am checking all of these traditional milestones off and I'm feeling this way, then everyone must be feeling this way, And it's just so interesting that even though there's a traditional track of life that there's no such thing anymore. There really isn't. And I think it's so beautiful that that narrative is starting to shine through. But I think in the back of all of our minds, there's still this traditional, find your person, get married, buy a house, have kids, and then that's the rest of your life. And it's all laid out for you. So yeah, I think it's super interesting. And I look at people that are very different than me. And I'm wow, that must be so fun to just be able to pick up and go to Charleston for a month and experience something different. And I think about myself and I'm well, yeah, I guess I could do that. But I have a husband and a house, who's going to pay the mortgage if I'm, things like that. So it's just it's so interesting.
Well, it's funny because I think when you look at other people's lives, you're able to cherry pick, right? So when you look at me and you're oh, she gets to spend a month in Charleston, whenever she wants, she can just pick up. She doesn't really have any, any other individual to kind of take into account. Yes, that's a great aspect. But there's also elements that allow me to do that you probably wouldn't want for yourself. And I feel that's amplified when we have this mixed bag to compare ourselves to, people that we know in real life, people that we don't know, people that we think we know, and we really don't know what goes on behind the scenes. And it's just so easy to take the components of everybody's lives that we want and make this ideal version that we feel we're missing out on, when in reality, nobody has the full package. There's people that are in, such different stages of life, and that's better in some ways and worse in others. And I think as humans, we all always think the grass is greener, but it's typically not.
You literally just blew my mind with that connection. The cherry picking connection, it really is so true. You only think about the good things that you want, and you don't think about what comes with that. And not that it, maybe maybe it could be a life that you would swap out for with all of the bad things too, but you just don't think about it that way. At least I don't.
Yeah.
So it's super interesting.
And people tend to just like broadcast the positive. So it's just easier to cherry pick and then assume that like that's representative. So for example, like still using this example of the month in Charleston, like, oh, that must mean that like every other aspect of her life is like so great. Like it's representative of everything, when it's like, that is one part of my life and like one luxury that I had. But like, I could do that because I'm single and I would love to be in a relationship. I would love to like find my lifelong partner, but I haven't yet. I would love to have still been in my South Philly apartment that I enjoyed, but the reality was I didn't enjoy it. And so I didn't renew my lease. And so I didn't have anything to worry about. I could just kind of travel. So I don't know. I think it's so easy to fall into that trap of comparison and just take the highlight reel and think that that's the full picture when it never is.
Yeah, it never is. Something I think would be fun to start with is just like talking about what we thought our life was going to look like when we were younger.
Oh my God.
Because like when you're, 15, you look at a 25-year-old person and you're like, wow, they are so grown up. They're an adult, they're going to be married and have kids. And so naturally you decide what your life's going to look like. So what was your timeline that you had when you were younger?
That is hysterical because it's so true. Like 25 now is a baby. But like when I was younger, I mean, even thinking about when I was in kindergarten, the 8th graders were like,
oh my God,
full grown adults, which is insane to think. But I think when I was growing up, I really only had my parents' timeline to go off of, and they were high school sweethearts. They had my older sister, Allie, when they were very young. And so by the time that they were like 23 and 24, they had 2 kids already. And so I think you kind of look at a situation like that and just want to like emulate it and think that that's normal. And so I think I kind of envisioned the traditional life of I will go to college, I will graduate, and then in my young 20s, I'll find my forever and I'll settle down with that person. I'll be married by like 26. I'll have kids by like 27, 28. And I mean, here I am, I'm 28 now and single as ever, like haven't even started that track of like settling down because again, like I haven't found that person yet. So yeah, it looks drastically different, which I think just speaks to like what we grow up around. And I think we're now living in such a different generation than our parents, which kind of like begs the question of like, where do these timelines even start with to begin with? And I think if you look at like the millennial Gen Z generation, like a lot of people are kind of in a similar boat of like settling down a little bit later, buying a home a little bit later. But I just think it's interesting that like when we were growing up, we likely were identifying with like the former generation that settled down a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
What about you? Did you also have like a timeline that you ended up fulfilling, or did it look different?
So I think the funniest part about my timeline was that I did not factor anything in besides age, like college or anything. Like I was 22 when I graduated college. So Aunt and I, my husband, we started dating when we were 15. So I feel like
that is so wild.
I know.
Every time you say it.
I know. It's like,
it's so sweet though. It's like, yeah.
So I thought we were going to get married and we were going to have our first kid by 23. That was like the age. It just sounded like a really good age. Like you're older than 21. You're not like 26. My mom was 26 when she had me. And yeah, I don't know. I just felt like 23 was just a great age to be a mom. And when like almost a year ago before my wedding, my sister and my mom and I were talking and my sister was like, Jess, you're the age that mom was when she had you. And I was like, that is just scary. That is like literally just scary to think about. So I just think it's hilarious that I thought that 23 was like a really good age to like start a family. So then the college part fits into where like I literally graduated college at 22. So I'm not really sure Like, yeah, I didn't really think too much into it.
That's going to be a busy year, like graduate college,
Yeah,
get
like,
married,
boom,
have
boom,
children,
boom, boom.
unless you were going to do things out of order, which is also totally fine. But you sounded like you wanted like a traditional path.
Totally. All in order. I think I just was like really excited to be a mom, and like 23 just sounded like a good age. But looking back, thank God I was not a mom at 23.
Where do you think that timeline came from? Like, just because, like, where did you pick 23? You had the anchor of your mom being 26.
Yeah.
You knew that you were going to graduate, or maybe you didn't know you were going to graduate at 23. Maybe you would have, or 22, you would have picked a different age.
Yeah, I just like did not factor in college whatsoever. I wasn't like, okay, I'm going to be 18 when I graduate, this, like, no. It was just like 23 sounds good. I felt like my parents were, looking back on it, this is ridiculous, but I thought they were a little bit old. Like, I don't know why. So I was like, I want to be younger than them when they had me. And so, yeah, I don't know. 23 is what I landed on, which is just so funny.
So you're 26 now. Were you 26 when you got married too, or are you still 25?
I was 25.
And your husband is the same age, right? Or is he a little bit older?
He was 26 when we got married.
Okay. So knowing your timeline now, do you still feel like you're on the traditional path? Like, comparing what you had, like a preconceived notion of what your timeline would look like, and then like comparing it to what it actually looks like, and now still like factoring in kids, do you still make timelines for yourself, or do you feel like you're just like overdoing that and you're just like gonna let things unfold as they do?
I'm trying to do a little bit of both. I feel like, you know, I'm not too close to 30, but I just feel like that 30 number is like, it just feels
Careful. Careful.
I have an old lady sitting with me over here.
My senior citizen co-host.
Yeah, I'm not that close to 30. But no, the 30 number, like, for whatever reason, just feels like it's just closing in on you as you get closer. So I feel like that, and only that, is like pressuring me to feel like I need to start a family sooner. But in reality, like, we don't really have a great, like, desire for that in the next couple of years, which is 30. So
beyond the age of 30, do you feel like there's other factors, like comparison culture, for example? Like, do you feel like you see people that have been married for a year and like have the home and they are getting pregnant, so you're like, oh, I should want that too? Like, do you ever feel like there's external pressure of like wanting what you see like people on social media getting?
I feel like I do and I don't. I do, but I don't take it super seriously that like I adjust my life accordingly. Yeah. I think it's definitely something that's in the back of my head. I think I, funnily enough, compare myself more with other aspects of life than just kids. So like, this is just one example that I'm thinking of, is like, if someone has a rental property, right?
Interesting.
And they're like my age, I'm like, wow, I'm so behind.
Yeah.
You know, like just random little things like that. Like, those are what make me feel behind rather than like not being a mom yet.
Okay. That makes me think of like all of the famous young TikTokers that are like multimillionaires, like Emma Chamberlain, like has this beautiful home that she bought like a couple years ago, I think. And I'm like, I can't even imagine. Yeah. Which that's like a tangent, because it's like the new digital age of like the opportunity for these young influencers, creators to like make a shit ton of money and like have these like huge possessions that like wouldn't ordinarily be feasible for somebody of their age.
And it's so hard too, though, because it's like, they're not ordinarily feasible, but like they actually are.
That's true.
Kind of. So it like, I feel like that puts so much pressure, so much more pressure on it, because it's like, they're just people that started a YouTube channel. Like, you could do that too.
That's so
and it
true.
just like makes you feel like you're not doing enough always.
Yeah. Well, so this is interesting. Like, I feel like when we compare ourselves, and this is more so along like the milestones and like what we measure success to be. But I look back when I was doing my podcast, Figure It Outable, and I'm like, if I had only done it right, if I had only stuck with it, where could that have taken me, and where would I be today doing it for like 3 years by now? And it's almost like I compare me to the version of like what I could have been, my reality versus like, oh, you missed out. And I look at people that are reaching certain milestones or certain levels of success, and I compare myself and almost like beat myself up that like I haven't put the work in or taken that path or like made those conscious decisions. And it makes me question like what I'm doing with my life.
Yeah.
I'm like, why did I stop Figure It Outable? Like, why didn't I do it more? Why didn't I take it more seriously and like get the production and, you know, do what we're doing now? But I beat myself up that I'm now 28 and I like wasted 2 years like kicking the can down the road and like not really like capitalizing on like what I'm actually passionate about and excited about doing.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Do you feel like for you it's an equal amount of comparing yourself to other people and comparing yourself to the version of you that you could be if you made different decisions? Or is it like more one or the other?
I do think it's equal. I do think I compare myself to myself a lot when it comes to body, when it comes to success, like we said. But I also do think being on social media and knowing that podcasting has taken off the last couple of years. Like I feel like when I started, it wasn't like as popular yet. And now like everybody has a podcast and I'm like, damn, you should have just listened to your intuition.
Yeah.
So I do think I like compare myself to those that have found success doing what I want to do. And when I look at other people on social media and see like them hitting huge milestones, I know that I am comparing myself when I feel like a twinge of like envy or jealousy, like not in the word, like not in a negative way that I like don't wish them success, but I almost think that's what led me to like really start pursuing passions, because I didn't want to live with like that FOMO of like I'm watching them succeed and hit milestones that I can only dream of. And so I think in a way that the comparison almost like fueled me to like take matters into my own hands. But I think it just became like very apparent that I felt like I was missing out on milestones that I could be hitting myself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's super interesting. I feel like I definitely do the same. I just never thought about it in that like way.
I think it's very interesting for you, and I think you're probably in the minority. I know you said like you feel more comparison with like other measures of success or milestones like a real estate property, but like it's very empowering that you don't feel that you need to have children before you're ready, because I feel like a lot of people in my life are like starting to think about having kids. And there's like a wide spectrum of like, I feel called to be a mom and I like want to do that now. And I feel ready, because ultimately like choosing to become a mom is flipping your life upside down. Like you're no longer living for you, you're living for your child. And I just really like admire you for being able to like look yourself in the mirror and like have that candid conversation with Anne of like, are we ready for that life yet? Knowing how drastically it'll change your current life, and like not chasing the milestones that other people are hitting and the timeline that other people are hitting, that they get married and they have children.
Yeah.
Where do you think that comes from?
I was going to say, while I would love to take your compliment, I think it comes from like me being very stubborn. I'm very much like, oh, if society says that I should do this thing, I'm not going to do it unless I want to do it. Mm-hmm. Like I'm very much trying to not do things just because I should, or like other people are telling me that I should. But it comes from a stubborn place of like, I'm going to do this on my terms. You're not going to tell me that I should do this thing.
Do you know what that reminds me of? Like part of your story of another time you took a stance of like doing things on your own terms.
Oh gosh.
Me quizzing you on you.
I know.
I'm like, let me tell you about your life. Well, this whole situation reminds me of your college experience of ultimately graduating in 5 years versus 4. And like even back then you were like doing things for you. It seems like you've always kind of been able to like separate the pressure.
Well, I didn't do things for me for a long time. And then Aunt turned the question back on to me and was like, are you doing this for you? Why are you doing this? Mm. And then I was like, yeah, you're right. So for some context.
Yeah. Now we have to
talk about it. Oh, you're taking me all the way back. So I, like, how do I make a long story short? I went to Penn State my first year of college and decided to switch my major to nursing. And the Penn State College of Nursing is like very strict. You can't transfer into it. You have to go into it as a freshman. So basically my option was pick another major or transfer if you want to continue with nursing. So I ended up transferring, and I was very set on the fact that I wanted to still graduate in 4 years because I had taken some classes that should have been able to count towards the nursing like degree. And so I transferred to Westchester intending to graduate in 4 years. Well, after a semester, they told me that I couldn't graduate in 4 years. I needed to retake some classes. So I said, okay, I'm going to transfer again to somewhere that I can graduate in 4 years still. So I transferred again. So that would be my third school. And then I did some classes there and then transferred again to do a 2-year nursing program to complete like a 4-year degree. And within all of that, so I did 4 schools in 5 years. And I, up until that third school, did not ask myself once, like, why do I have this crazy timeline of like feeling like I need to graduate in 4 years? And nobody told me that I needed to.
I was going to say, where did it come from?
Felt like
just because
I'm getting a 4-year degree. Yeah. Everyone else is graduating in 2020. And I don't want to be behind. Yeah. You know, and like I changed my major, so it's like very normal for me to have graduated late. But I was so fixated on that, and it literally led to me transferring to 4 different schools in 5 years, which is absurd. And it wasn't until I was at that third school and my husband kind of asked me like, why are you rushing yourself? Like, why are you doing all of this? And I didn't have a good answer. And I had never asked myself that question, like, what are you doing this for? And so I don't know if, you know, my stubbornness in that regard started from that point on, but that was definitely a turning point where I was like, I'm going to do things for me because I want to and not just because I feel like I have to. And like, from that, I wasn't super, even graduating in 5 years, I like wasn't super proud of the fact that I graduated in 5 years.
Oh, really? Like, why? Because you still thought you should have done it in 4?
Yeah. Like, it's a 4-year degree. Like, why did I take 5 years and
because you changed your major and Westchester lied to you.
I know.
But it's interesting because I think around that age, that's when we start comparing ourselves to our peers the most. Because if you think about it, like the first 20 something years of our lives, we're in lockstep with our peers. Mostly everybody's going to like kindergarten and then like, you know, 1st grade through 8th grade, and then it's high school, and then some people go to college, other people choose not to. Maybe they go to like into the union or like the academy or something. But more or less, I feel like everybody's on a very like similar path. And then once you graduate, I feel like everybody just starts to kind of like pave their own path. And it can be really disorienting to not feel like you're like keeping pace with your peers. And that could look a lot of different things, whether it be when you like find your person and get married. It could be like when you know, start to progress in your career. It could be when you buy a home. Like there's so many different measures of success, and like how can you know, check all those boxes and keep pace with everyone on like every single one of the boxes. But I think it's only natural that you start to feel like a little bit more pressure around that age, because I think that's when our lives inherently start to look like a little different than those that we're surrounded by, but we're so like not accustomed.
Yeah, we're so used
feeling
to just,
that
like,
way,
all being on the same playing field.
Exactly. And it makes you think like you're doing something wrong if your life looks different. Just like somebody else thinks like they're doing something wrong because maybe they chose to go back to school. And in your eyes, you're like, oh my God, they're like going to get this new degree. They're going to be like so accredited when they like apply to this next job. But the person who's going back to school is like, I'm putting myself in debt. Like, what am I even doing this for? Who even cares about this degree? Like, the value is truly like in the eye of the beholder. And I just feel like it's a constant game of like, again, being like the grass is greener.
Yeah. Do you feel like there's anything that you've ever done that you've looked back and realized that you did because you felt like you had to?
Everything until I was 22. I mean, for anybody that's listened to the intro episode, I feel like I talked a lot about ultimately like choosing my major being finance when I went into Wharton, and because my peers were doing that and I knew that they would be hitting certain milestones in their career and like reaching certain like salary brackets, and I was like, I can do that too. But similar to you, I never asked myself, like, that might be the result, but like, is that the life you want? Like, you don't just wake up one day and, you know, become like a VP on a Wall Street bank with like a crazy salary. Like, there's a lot of steps. Like, are you okay with like that being your life to lead up to that point? And again, I was chasing the milestones, the status, like the traditional measure of success. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until me being 25, 3 years into my career, that I realized why I was so miserable. And it was because I had been doing everything according to like the book of, okay, you graduated with a finance degree from Wharton. Like now you move to New York and you get a job on Wall Street and you do that whole thing. But that like was so far from the life that I felt like I should be living. That should meaning like deep down, like what Karli wanted. Like I was living the life that others thought I should be living, but like it wasn't the life that like made me feel fulfilled. But it was just as hard of a decision to temporarily leave that career. Like similarly, like talking about timelines, like I felt like that really threw my timeline for a loop. And that was also a factor in my decision of like, damn, I'm setting myself back.
Yeah. Or
a
like
lot
you
of
feel
years.
like you're setting yourself back.
Yeah. And that was also really scary. But ultimately, I still made that decision. But it was like definitely something that I battled with because, again, my reality was going to look very different than a lot of my peers who were still like progressing in their careers and like, you know, climbing the ladder, getting a better salary. And I was like taking myself out of that game. And so I was a little bit scared to set myself back professionally.
Yeah. What about most recently when you got your apartment?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. See, this is where you know me a little bit better. Yeah.
We should just tell each other stories at this point.
It works. Yeah. So I was living with my parents and I thought I wanted to move out. And the thing that kept me from moving out before was I didn't know where I wanted to be. I was kind of over the city. Like I went to school in Philly, then I moved to New York. Like COVID very much made me realize that like I don't love the city anymore. Like I feel like you get taken out of it and then you like go back into it and you're just like, this actually isn't my vibe. Like it's just too much. I didn't know where I wanted to be. And I was like, well, if you're 27, I was 27 at the time and single, like you don't necessarily like move out to the burbs and like get an apartment in like Newtown or Yardley or something. And ultimately I was like, I think South Philly could be like a good happy medium. So I got the apartment because I felt like I was 27. That's what I should be doing. I should be moving out of my parents' house. And I had a year lease, but that place never really felt like home. Like I was never really happy there. And I think it's because I did it for the sake of doing it and saying that I moved out and I have an apartment. But deep down, I think I knew that I didn't want to be in the city. Hence I chose like the part of the city that didn't really feel super urban. And ultimately when my lease ended in February of 2025, I didn't renew because I just wasn't happy. I wasn't happy spending time there. And like, again, it became so clear and kind of got thrown back in my face of like, well, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Like if you don't make decisions with the right intent, it's not going to feel right. And it didn't feel right. And so I moved back in with my parents, and that was something that I really had to like sit with because again, I felt like I shouldn't be doing that now at age 28.
And no one at home when you moved out was like, you should move out. Like it's time for you to like spread your wings. You kind of just came to that conclusion on your own.
So nobody ever said it repeatedly. My dad would make comments sometimes and they would really get to me. And sometimes he would be joking. Like, for example, we were talking at dinner one night and I was like saying how I enjoy their company and like, I love them. I'm like, if I could live with you guys for the rest of my life and it be like deemed okay by society, like I would do it. And he's like, yeah, I bet you would, or something like that. And I would like take those to heart. And I think it was me projecting.
Yeah.
It was nothing that like he said, but I think it was me deep down, like taking those comments and like misconstruing them or like amplifying them of like, well, you really should. So I do feel like I felt a little bit of external pressure, and it was almost like, all right, well, you're going to make those comments, like watch this. And I moved out. And then a year later, I'm like, I'm moving back in.
Knock, knock, I'm back.
I'm back.
Oh my God. This is literally the 3rd episode. Can you please just tell me what the reference is?
Half the time, I don't even know what the reference is. It's like, they're either like audios from TikTok or like movies.
I hate that when you're like, oh, you know that TikTok and it goes like this and they're like, no.
That's my friends
like,
always. Well, I'm like not on the same algorithm as anybody. Like I don't know what algorithm I'm on, but it's like one of one.
It's not, yeah.
Yeah, I never know what anybody's talking about. So yeah, I will say a lot of references, but 9 times out of 10, couldn't tell you the source.
Don't actually know. I just have to know. Okay.
Yeah. But it's like, I'm back. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Still no?
Yeah, no.
I feel like I don't know what that's from, but
Is it like a TikTok or something?
I think it is, or maybe it's a song or like a jingle.
It was a song.
It's a song. Oh. All right, we got an answer.
Okay. Well, okay. Maybe let's find another reference.
Maybe. Or we'll stop with the references that I don't know where they come from.
I hate when like I have very specific memories of Vine. Like, you know how
I was never a Vine girl. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I like have so many specific Vines that I would love to reference and nobody ever knows them.
What happened to Vine? I feel like that was like the app for the longest time.
And it was the best.
Did it get like disbanded? Like what happened to it? Because
I have no idea.
I mean, it was pretty similar to TikTok, right? Yeah. It was like very short form.
It was super short form.
Yes.
Like, I don't know, maybe sub 10 seconds.
Wow.
It was very short.
And you got like an algorithm as you scrolled and stuff. Like it was interesting. I wonder if it still exists out there, or if it's like just literally no more.
Like it just disappeared.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Were you on Snapchat? Now I need to know that answer because you just said you were a Vine. Were you also a Snapchat?
Not really.
Person? Okay.
No.
That's why we're friends.
Yeah. I haven't had the app since I was like 20, probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can never really get behind that.
Yeah. Did you ever Snapchat?
No, I didn't. I never even like Snapchat. I just don't like the concept of like constant access. I feel like at least back when it was like big, people used it to like send pictures, and it was also like supposed to be like very like fast as in terms of like response.
Yeah.
Right. And I am just like not like that. Like I don't like people having constant access to me, and I don't like feeling pressured to like respond
quickly.
Yeah. Let alone like be showing pictures of my face all day. I'm like, I don't want to do that. Like you don't want to see that. I don't want. Yeah. Like, yeah. So yeah, my friends still like use it sometimes for like a group chat. And like once every couple of weeks, I'll like download the app and like just scroll through, because so many inside jokes or like updates I just miss, because like they just use it to like send funny videos like throughout their day, just like another way to like keep in touch.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I miss out on the Snapchat references. Whenever they say something, I'm like, what's that from? They're like, check the group.
Check the group. Oh,
anyway, back to Milestones.
Anyway, back to the real stuff. Do you think that a lot of these milestones and things we feel like we should be doing or tracks that we should be on, do you feel like it's external or internal? Like who's pressuring us to feel like this? Like why do we feel like this?
That's so interesting. My speculation is that it's both. Like I feel like it can be external because some people do feel real pressure from their parents. And again, I think it like tying back into like that generational difference. But like life just looks so drastically different. Like the economy is so different. Like interest rates are different. Like it's just people aren't buying homes as easily now, and people are having children later because life is more expensive, and people are working a little bit more. And like there's so many differences between like generation to generation, even the way that we like career hop a little bit and like don't really have loyalty to like one company. Like historically people would be with the same company for like 30 years. And so I think if we feel that external pressure from our parents, who ultimately were part of that former generation, that can then be internalized. But then I also think we can feel that internal pressure if we're looking at our peers and notice that like our timelines aren't stacking up on top of each other.
Yeah.
What do you think though? I'm curious your take.
No, I think you're totally right with the generational thing from our parents, and then also just like social media in general, like just the comparison of, I feel like we try to cling to people and compare ourselves to people that are similar to us, like whether it's an age or location or whatever it is. And so I think it's just so natural for us to like try to relate and be like, oh, this person's also 26, but they're doing this and I'm doing this. Like, I don't know. I think social media has a huge, huge part in it because like we say all the time, we have instant access to millions of people to be able to compare ourselves to, you know?
Yeah. Have you ever read the book or heard about the book, The Midnight Library? Mm-mm. I just said that's so weird. The Midnight Library. So it kind of reminds me of like opening up your phone and seeing like a million different like lifestyles at your palm. Like the book is about a girl who goes into a library and she picks up all of these different books, and each book is like a different version of life that like unfolded had she made a certain decision.
Gosh, I just got chills.
It's wild.
Good.
So I read it years ago because I was just feeling like very lost. And I think it can be very overwhelming at times to like think about every decision that you've ever made and like every decision out in front of you that like you will make, and think that like one small one can like absolutely like derail your trajectory of like what you're supposed to do or what you should do. And this book is all about like her reading through all of the different options of what her life could have turned out like, and she's not like fully happy in any of them. And it just kind of like goes to show that there's not one path that has like everything going for you and it's perfect in every way. And I think I kind of relate that to what we see on social media. Like every life that we get a glimpse into, we're only seeing the portion that they want to show us. But if we look at it from like opening a whole book and reading it from front to back, like you would realize that like nobody has everything that you're like after. And so I think it's just a dangerous game to think that there's like one life for you or one way to do life and it's like right or wrong, because I also think that can lead to like decision paralysis sometimes of like, well, what do I do? Because you think that like there is a right or a wrong answer when your journey is your journey and your timeline is your timeline.
It's so true. I would love to talk a little bit about the just fact of turning 30. Why is that such a big thing?
First off, I'm not even 29 yet. So the fact that you keep trying to make me so close to 30.
Put you in the green.
So it's interesting because I think we all have different triggers, not triggers, but like things that we care more about.
Yeah.
And I feel like you bring up being 30 a little bit more, maybe because I'm closer to it. And I feel like I know 30-year-olds for some reason. I'm not feeling a ton of pressure, but I can totally agree.
I don't want to pressure you to have pressure about it.
I know.
I feel like it's just such a hot topic in general.
Right. It's always
30.
been like the decade.
Like, you know, turning 20 isn't a big deal, but when you turn 30, like there's always just things that you feel like you should have done by 30 or it's just the number.
Yeah.
I feel like.
I also think it's for females, right? So nobody's ever been like, oh yeah, like you're 30, bro. Like with guys, like I don't think they have the same pressure. And I think with females turning 30, I think it has a lot to do with like the biological clock. And that's something I feel pressure about. And finding my person, like that's definitely something that I am more sensitive to than just the age itself. It's more so what that age represents. And so when I think about turning 30, it's like 2 years away. And I'm like, I absolutely want to be a mom one day. I absolutely want to have kids. And like, that's what really scares me because it's science, right? Like, I just know that like, it's going to be harder to conceive as like the years go on. And again, I can't control my timeline. And like when I find my person, but I would say as it relates to like that age, it more so is about like, it's about like the ability to like conceive and start a family and like worrying about that timeline. I will say Paige DeSorbo has like changed the game for me. So for anybody that's like not familiar, she's a Bravo reality TV star who is dating another Bravo reality TV star, and she's 32, I believe. And they just broke up not that long ago. And she has since like, you know, come out and just talked about how like she does feel the pressure, but at the same time, like she's excited to be single and that relationship didn't feel right. So she's not going to force it. And I think a lot of people think that settling means they're going to be brought like stability. But at the same time, it's like if you can't force some things, and kind of how Paige got out of that relationship because she knew it wasn't right for her. Like I refuse to enter a relationship that I know isn't right for me. Like,
just for the sake of being in one.
Right. Yeah. Like I would rather like hold out for something that's like actually worth it to me. And just seeing Paige like navigate this breakup and knowing that she's talked about wanting to be a mom. She just opened up about her experience on the podcast about freezing her eggs, like taking measures into her own hands about like making sure she's setting herself up for the future that she wants, while also acknowledging that like some of that future is like not in her control, you know, like finding her partner.
Yeah.
And so I just look at her and I think she's beautiful. I think she's accomplished. She's funny. She literally has everything going for her, but she's 32 and she's starting at ground zero in terms of like finding her person and dating. And that's really inspiring to me. And it like gives me a little bit of hope that if somebody like Paige can do it, then so can I. And I didn't realize how much I had been like putting that pressure on myself and feeling that like time ticking until I saw Paige take that action. It was kind of like a breath of fresh air and like a weight off of my shoulders. And I think it's important to like sometimes have people like that we can look to be like, you know what, they don't have it all figured out because nobody does. And like, that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's really brave to be able to say like, I'm not just going to get into a relationship, or I'm not going to start this part of my life that I'm not ready for just for the sake of doing it.
Yeah.
You know?
When it comes to, you know, settling down with somebody, again, like saying like people that settle think that's going to bring them stability, but like finding the person you're going to spend the rest of your life with, that's a huge commitment. And that's the biggest decision
either.
Yeah. It's the biggest decision you're ever going to make. So I never understood why people were so keen to just like be in a relationship and then like get married to that person just for the sake of the timelines.
Yeah.
And similarly, like with the babies and like, you know, that whole conversation of feeling pressure, like you should have children by a certain age because your peers are like, think about the day in and day out, like of having a kid, like that decision needs to be made for you and your partner, nobody else and nobody else's timeline. Because if they have a kid by 30 and you have a kid at 35, nobody did it right. Like everybody has a decision that's right for them. And it's harder to listen to yourself sometimes, but I think it's so important to try to cut through the noise and ask what you want.
Totally. And I think that we deep down, if we really ask ourselves the hard questions, we know what the right answer is. We just have to listen to ourselves.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. I feel like that's a good point to wrap up, and we can talk about our mental health resources that we're loving this week.
Okay.
I can go first.
Go for it.
I've been loving, we have this like family fun center near us, and it has like mini golf and batting cages and stuff. So me and Aunt have been going to the batting cages and just like messing around. So it's just been fun to feel like your inner child is happy. Like I haven't swung a bat and played softball in like 15 years. And so it was just fun.
How's it going? Are you hitting the ball?
I'm making contact.
Okay.
I've moved up from the slow softball pitch to the medium baseball. So we're getting there.
That's awesome.
I'm not really hitting anything, but I feel a little bit better.
I love that. Like, I feel like it's so important to just like get outside and just like do things off of screens that have like nothing to do with like being productive, like just good, clean fun.
True.
Whatever happened to good, clean fun?
So many laughs too.
Yeah. Oh, that's really sweet.
Yeah. How about you?
My mental health resource this week is the book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. I feel like when I read that book about a year and a half ago, it was like a standout moment for me. I was like, wow, like I had my highlighter. I was like a student again. And I found myself needing to reference it again, kind of speaking about what we talked about in our first episode about like things still feeling scary and trying to like push through it. I feel like with this podcast, it's definitely been very nerve-wracking. Teaching Pilates to a large group again has me a little bit anxious. I have some big work opportunities and presentations coming up that make me feel really nervous. Like I don't love being on a stage, and I've like recently developed this weird like mental block or like performance anxiety around like speaking in front of people or like speaking in high pressure situations. See, it's this. Like this. So I'm shaking in my boots.
Oh my gosh.
And so I've needed to go back to that book because it's a great resource. And it just reminds you that sometimes you need to just feel the fear and do it anyway. Because if you wait for the fear to dissipate, you're never going to take action.
Yeah.
So I've been loving that book and I highly recommend it.
I would love to borrow it from you.
You got it.
All right. I think that's it. Thanks so much for listening.
Here's your whisper again. Jess loves to close out the episode with some ASMR.
Wait, actually, someone on TikTok, we have not been getting much traction on TikTok.
Oh my God.
But one thing that someone said was, have you ever considered ASMR because your voice is perfect for it? And I was like, I don't even know what that is, but I'm going to look it up.
You don't know what ASMR? All right, well, hell with this mental health awareness challenge. Like, let's just get you uploading videos every day. All we need is like a little bit of traction. So yeah, it's kind of like, I mean, it can be a variety of things, but it's just like noises. And even if you're like doing your skincare, like eating or something, or just whispering into the mic.
Well, thanks everyone for tuning in this week.
We'll see you next time. Let's try that again. We'll see you next time. Let's say together. Next week. We have to end with the same whisper.
I find you.
Oh, I find you. Why did I just carry like a melody at the end of that?
Maybe you should be on the stage like Ella Langley.
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. We're actually going to end it.
Oh, I thought that was all staying in.
Yeah. No, it is.
Oh, okay.
We're going to end it on the same thing.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week.
Yeah.
All right.
1, 2, 3. We'll see you next week. We gotta go.